peace is an idea that keeps coming up. So why did I pick a topic today? Why did I want to do a whole day with this idea of peace? If any of you have taken one of my Power Hour classes, which is what we do usually on Sunday mornings, I like to spend a whole month diving deep into a topic and really coming at it from different angles and coming together with other people in our community so we can discuss it and learn more from each other. So I've got a brand new class I've got starting in a couple weeks, and I'm calling it Everyday Peacemaking. Everyday Peacemaking. So I've been working with these ideas as I've been writing this guide for some time. So if you are interested in what I have to say today, come join us and we'll dive deeper together. But today I just want to introduce that idea, everyday peacemaking. Everyday peacemaking. What does that spark in you when I say that? Are you a peacemaker in your own life? What does peace even mean? Well, here's one example. A wife had provided a tombstone for her husband's grave, and on it she inscribed 2 sentences: "Rest in peace," and "Until we meet again." Rest in peace until we meet again. They don't sound that good together, do they? Well, that's the problem when we use the word peace in a limited sense. That means the cessation of hostilities until we meet again, I guess. So perhaps the first thing that comes to mind when we think of peacemaking is some kind of diplomat, right? Negotiating an end to hostility. And we certainly have a lot of political conflicts in the world today, geopolitical conflicts. We have war in Europe for the first time in 80 years. We have war in the Middle East, again, far too frequent. And we're all feeling the impact in our everyday lives. I know I have a 75-mile commute 5 days a week, and on one day I get a respite. When I come to Unity, I only have a 70-mile round-trip commute. So I'm certainly feeling it at the gas pump, and I know you all are as well. But so many other people are feeling it a lot more than that. And the loss of their livelihoods, the loss of family members or friends. We're all paying the price. And war definitely makes us feel the need for peacemaking. Well, in the face of such large, huge geopolitical issues, we can all see the need for peacemaking. But the task seems so large. How can we, you and I, and everyone in the room, have an impact on something like that when we're so far away from the rooms where those decisions are made? So far away from the conflicts. The size of the conflicts can make us feel hopeless, and these issues are too big. They involve too many people. What could we possibly do? Well, I believe we always have a choice. Whatever we're facing in our everyday lives, we can choose to go to peace instead of going to pieces. Peace is a power we all have, and we can all be a force for peace in our friendships, in our community, and therefore in the world. Spiritual teacher Emmett Fox once said, "Is it not wonderful thought that you, perhaps an undistinguished and unknown everyday person, can sit quietly in your room and do more to save the world from the inconceivable horrors of another war than can all the statesmen and diplomats put together?" That's what I want to talk about today. That kind of practical, everyday work of peacemaking. Peace in our homes, peace in our communities, peace wherever we go. Being a peacemaker, an everyday peacemaker in the world. So where do we begin? So I'm a millennial, and I do what we all do when I'm looking into a topic. I do some research online. And I actually found a life coach I found that said they have the key to inner peace. So I want to share it with you. I follow it on Facebook, which is, of course, a great source of wisdom. And what they say is, One way to achieve inner peace is to finish what you've started. Oh, have you ever felt like that? Seems intuitive. The unfinished or unresolved things in your life, they're a challenge to inner peace. Well, yesterday I had a day off, and I finished a large pizza. Maybe I finished a pint of Ben & Jerry's, too. Does that count? I feel more peaceful already. Okay, that was a joke, not a very good one. I can guarantee you eating a whole pizza is not going to bring you any kind of inner peace. And as a side note, I recently started Wegovy. I seriously doubt I could eat 2 slices, let alone a whole pizza, so don't worry about me. But the point I want to make with this joke is that peace is not something you have to wait for either, okay? You don't have to wait to complete anything to find peace. You don't have to wait for the outer condition, wait for the promotion, wait for the happy ending, or wait for the end of the story to find peace. You don't have to wait for conflict to be resolved. You can still find peace wherever you are. And the best way is simply to not engage with those things that aren't yours. Not every package that arrives on the doorstep of your mind is yours for you to sign for. It doesn't belong in your home. Not every accusation needs to be received. Not every fear needs to be entertained. Not every offense needs guest room in your house. Not every shame needs your signature. Whatever comes to you from the outside, you don't have to claim it. It's not yours. Peace is not waiting for everyone else to calm down. If that's your plan for inner peace, well, I bless you, but you're going to be waiting a while. Peace isn't waiting for your boss to become enlightened. Peace isn't waiting for your relatives to stop having opinions like they always do. Peace isn't waiting for every other driver on the road to go on a spiritual retreat and learn to focus and maintain lane discipline. Peace is not saying, I'll be peaceful when the outside world behaves. Because if our peace depends on outer conditions, then our peace is always being held hostage. Many of us has done this. We say, I'll be peaceful when they apologize. I'll be peaceful when the money comes. I'll be peaceful when my child takes a different opinion. I'll be peaceful when my spouse finally sees things my way. We make our inner life like a remote control that sits in somebody else's hand. That's not peace. That's emotional outsourcing. Ernest Holmes makes this point plainly. He says, most people are controlled by outer suggestions rather than inner realization. And he teaches that we must learn to govern the inner life if we really want to create the world we're seeking. You don't have to claim those outer suggestions as your inner reality. Don't sign for the package. Don't take them in. Outer suggestion says, this is your life now. This mistake, this loss, this humiliation, this diagnosis, this betrayal. But inner realization, that inner realization of peace says, no, I'm a child of God, and I am not naming myself by this passing situation. Leave it unclaimed. There's a story I want to focus on today from Scripture. It's in John chapter 8. And there's a woman who's brought before Jesus by a crowd of people with some scribes and Pharisees in tow. These were the religious authorities at the time, and they saw Jesus as something of a troublemaker. They accused this woman of adultery. And in Unity teacher Elizabeth Sam Turner's reading, they're trying to trap Jesus into taking a stand that will discredit him with the people. It's manipulation dressed up as righteousness. They want to stone this woman because she committed adultery. We know that kind of punishment isn't Jesus' way. He's all about forgiveness, helping people find the inner wisdom and power so they can make better choices that will lead to a better life. You can't really do that if you're stoned to death, can you? So this scene is charged, it's public, It's religious, it's emotional, and it's deeply unfair. So here's my nerdy little side note for this week's sermon. You see, the scripture they're referring to, they're trying to play gotcha with Jesus on, is Leviticus 20:10. It says that if a man commits adultery with his neighbor's wife, they both shall be put to death. And this story is all about the woman with a crowd of people. And all those religious authorities of Jesus' day, they sure were quick to condemn her. But where's the man? Why wasn't he brought forth and likewise condemned? Takes two to tango, my friends. When we study Scripture, one of the lenses you can use is called a feminist reading. That means reading between the lines to look for examples of all the transcending power dynamics and oppression of marginalized people and women. What's not said in these stories is often just as revealing of our opportunities for spiritual growth as what is said. Anyway, back to Jesus. So this crowd of people wants Jesus to condemn the woman for adultery, not the man. So we know it was probably a group of men doing this. We have the accusation. We have selective judgment, judgment for thee, not for me. We have public shame and a crowd ready to punish. In the middle of that stands Jesus. But Jesus doesn't accept the framing. He doesn't let the crowd define this woman. He doesn't let the legal argument define the moment. And he doesn't accept their sense of urgency. Doesn't let it define his pace. So he stoops down to the ground. And he pauses and he writes in the dust. Jesus doesn't pay them any mind at all. He just stoops down for a moment and writes in the dust words of spiritual truth. And only then does he rise and say those famous words, "Let he who is without sin among you be the first to throw a stone." And the crowd disperses. The conflict is over. There's no one left to condemn this woman. Now let's notice what Jesus doesn't do. He does not condemn the woman. He doesn't flatter the crowd. He doesn't deny that transformation is needed, but he doesn't join the violence. And he doesn't escalate the situation. He creates a pause that's big enough for consciousness to enter. He refuses to sign for that package, refuses to accept the conflict, and he finds peace within before he reacts. That is spiritual power. We often think it's that fast answer, the immediate comeback, that perfect zinger that leaves everybody silent. That's power. But Jesus kneels, he pauses, he writes, and he dispels that whole machinery of accusation. In the sacred pause, the crowd is faced with the truth. There's practical guidance here that's wonderfully livable. When confronted with an interruption, frustrating email, an unexpected delay, don't react immediately. Do what Jesus did. Pause. Pause for at least 3 full seconds and take a deep breath. Remind yourself that this outer event has no authority to dictate your inner state. Take 3 seconds to remember the truth and then proceed. Just 3 seconds. Now, I can hear some of you mentally saying to me, "But Reverend Nicholas, 3 seconds won't fix my whole life." Maybe not. But 3 seconds can keep you from adding another brick to that wall you've been building between you and your neighbor. 3 seconds can let spirit speak before ego grabs the microphone. 3 seconds can keep a disagreement from becoming a disaster. Try it this week. Before the reply, breathe. Before the judgment, breathe. Before you send a text message in all caps, that's yelling in text if you don't know it. breathe, breathe, and only then choose to act from your indwelling power, from that point of peace within. Jesus' model shows us how to find the peace in any situation. Before anything changes outwardly, peace is always present. Before the accusers leave, peace is present. Before the stones drop, peace is present. And before the woman hears, neither do I condemn thee, peace is present. And that's important for somebody in here to hear today. You may have been waiting for the outer scene to change before you believe that peace is possible. But peace is present before the resolution. Peace is present before the apology. Peace is present before you get an answer. Peace is always present before the crowd disperses. Peace is always present. It doesn't come from that world outside. It comes within us. So now we come to the choice we have in the moment. Because peace is not automatic just because it's available. Life still happens, and that package will still come to your door every day. I know Amazon comes to my door about 3 times a day. You still have to decide whether you're taking it in. You still have to decide whether this package is part of your life. So the accusers brought a package to Jesus that day. It was labeled condemnation. They wanted him to sign. They wanted him to take possession of their judgment, their violence, their trap. They wanted him to join the energy of the crowd. But he didn't sign. They brought a package for the woman, too. It was labeled, "This is all you are. Public shame, your final identity. No future, no dignity, no energy, and no new beginnings possible." Jesus didn't let her sign for that either. Neither do I condemn thee. Leave it unclaimed. Unity teacher Ed Rabel says that this great saying, "Let he who was without sin among you be the first to throw a stone," is one of the most potent utterances of spiritual awareness ever made, because Jesus was adamant about the wrongness of ever condemning a human being. That package labeled condemnation. Leave it unclaimed. And friends, sometimes we do it to ourselves. You may not carry stones in your hands, but you carry them in your memory. I should have known better. I ruined everything. I'm too old to change. I'm too damaged. God may forgive all those other people, but not me. That's a package, and you don't have to sign. There's not a thing in the world that can block your peace like condemnation of yourself or others. Forgiveness is always possible. Healing is always possible. Believe that first, and watch how peace becomes an ever-present reality in your life. So this week, here's our spiritual practice. When the crowd gathers, find your center. When the accusation comes, let spirit within answer. When there's dust beneath your feet, write peace there. When the stone is in your hand, drop it down. And when there's a package at your door, choose to leave it unclaimed. And remember, nothing real is lost when you refuse to hate. Nothing divine is weakened when you refuse to retaliate. Nothing of the good in you becomes smaller when you choose peace. Peace is a spiritual power because it rests in the truth that spirit is greater than the conflict, greater than the accusation, greater than fear, and greater than the need to be right. So let's stand in that power together, and we can bring a little everyday peacemaking to the world. And so it is.